My stepfather and his children always hated me. But after he found out that I had inherited my late father's property, he actually tried to kick me out of the house. All right, buckle up, because this is going to be a long one. About 3 years ago, things at home started to get weird. Out of nowhere, my mom told me she was dating someone new. His name was Derek, and from the very first time I met him, I could tell something was off. He had this vibe, like he was always sizing me up, trying to figure out if I was a friend or a threat. I was only 13 at the time, so it felt really strange having some guy I didn't know trying to insert himself into our lives. Let me paint you a picture. My mom and dad hadn't been in love for who knows how long. They decided to split when I was just a little kid, but they never officially divorced. They thought it would be better for me if they both stayed under the same roof, at least until I was older. So basically, they were like roommates who just happened to share a kid. To the outside world, it looked like we were one big happy family, but inside it was anything but. Every once in a while, my dad or mom would try dating other people, but it never went well. I remember doing everything I could to sabotage their dates because deep down, I just wanted them to get back together. Yeah, I know, childish, but I was just a kid who wanted his parents to be like everyone else's. Whenever someone new came into the picture, I'd be the first to throw a fit, hoping it would scare them off. Then came Derek. This guy was different. He had a 15-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old son, and right from the start, none of us got along. They looked at me like I was the enemy, invading their territory. It didn't help that Derek always took their side over anything, which just added more tension. My mom thought Derek was the greatest thing since sliced bread. She was always going on about how understanding and amazing he was. But to me, he was just some guy who was trying way too hard to be something he wasn't. I'll be honest, my efforts to get rid of him were on a whole new level. I was extra annoying, extra loud, and extra everything, just to make him think twice about sticking around. But Derek? Man, he was tough as nails. He didn't budge. It was like all my old tricks, the ones that used to work, were suddenly useless. He just kept coming back, and my mom was eating it up. Things got really real when Derek started talking about moving in with us. My mom was all for it, thinking it was the next logical step. But my dad?
He wasn't having it. They had made a promise way back when they decided to split, but not divorce, that they'd keep living under the same roof until I was at least 18.
For my sake, my dad held my mom to that promise, and it ticked Derek off. You could tell he wanted to swoop in and play house with my mom, but my dad was the wall he kept crashing into. The tension at home was unbearable. Every dinner felt like sitting on a powder keg, just waiting for someone to light the fuse. Derek and his kids would sit on one side, my mom on another, and me and my dad just tried not to get caught in the crossfire. It was messed up. Despite all the drama, Derek did eventually move in, after my dad got really sick. He had been in and out of the hospital, and things weren't looking good. My mom was torn up about it, and somehow Derek moving in was supposed to make everything better. I didn't see the logic in that. How was adding more people supposed to help anything? Then came the bombshell. My dad passed away from a heart attack. It was sudden, and it completely knocked the wind out of us. I thought that maybe, just maybe, it would put things into perspective for everyone. That it would make them realize that life's too short for petty drama. But I was wrong. Not even a month after my dad died, my mom announced she and Derek were getting married. They planned a small ceremony with just a few friends and family. To me, it felt rushed. It felt disrespectful. Like, how could she move on so fast? How could she think bringing Derek even closer into our lives would somehow help me deal with my dad's death? I was a mess. It felt like I was losing not just my dad, but my whole family. Derek and his kids didn't make it any easier either. They walked around like they owned the place, barely acknowledging that my world had just been turned upside down. So I kept my distance. I spent more time in my room, or out with friends, anywhere but home. Then came the real kicker. We got a call from my dad's lawyer, and it turned out my dad had left me pretty much everything. His money, his properties, and a bunch of other stuff I didn't even know about. Apparently, he had inherited a fortune from some relative years back and never told anyone. Suddenly, I wasn't just the annoying kid in the house, I was the annoying rich kid, and Derek's attitude shifted overnight. Any pretense of being the cool, understanding stepdad vanished. Now, I was a threat, a roadblock to whatever plans he had for his new life with my mom. And let me tell you, it felt like war was about to break out at home. So here we are, living in this awkward setup where every day feels like a silent battle. Derek and his kids are officially part of the household now, and it's like walking on eggshells all the time. Ever since the will was read, Derek's been acting all sweet in front of my mom, but I can tell it's just an act. Behind that smile is a guy who is not happy about me being the main heir. Let's talk about daily life in this weird blended family. Breakfast? The worst. Imagine sitting at the table trying to eat, while Derek and his kids chat like I'm not even there. They talk about plans for the house, joke around, like they're the real family, and I'm just the outsider. My mom tries to involve me, but it feels so forced it only makes things more uncomfortable. One morning, things got really tense. Derek started talking about redoing the living room, talking like he owned the place. I couldn't help myself. I said, "Don't you think we should all discuss changes to the house together?" Derek just gave me this look, like I had no business even suggesting that. My mom jumped in to smooth things over, but it was clear she was just trying to keep the peace without picking sides. As if mornings weren't rough enough, coming home from school was no better. Most days, Derek was there, sitting in what used to be my dad's chair, acting like he was the man of the house. He'd usually be on the phone talking business, or chatting with his kids about their day. I'd just head straight to my room. The less I interacted, the better. But even upstairs, I could hear them laughing and talking, like they were erasing every trace of my dad, one laugh at a time. Then there were the chores. Derek had this idea that everyone should pitch in equally, which sounds fair on paper, right? But the way he enforced it, you'd think we were in boot camp. He had chores scheduled on a fridge calendar, and he checked off everything like a drill sergeant. If I missed even one thing because of homework, or just needing a break, he was on my case, claiming I wasn't pulling my weight. It honestly felt like he was just looking for ways to criticize me, to prove I didn't belong. And let's not forget weekends, the one time that's supposed to be a break from all the stress. Not in this house. Derek planned all these family outings, which were less about fun and more about him proving to my mom that he could blend our families together. We'd go to parks or local events, stuff I used to enjoy, but now it was all about Derek, showing that he was the new head honcho, that we should all fall in line. One Saturday, this whole blending thing hit a new level of ridiculous. Derek decided we should all volunteer at some community cleanup event. Sounds noble, doesn't it? But the whole day was Derek this, Derek that. He was soaking up all the praise from other volunteers, acting like Mr. Community Leader, while I was stuck picking up trash, feeling more like an outsider than ever. My mom was there, beaming at Derek, while I just wanted to disappear. But the real kicker is how things go when there's a disagreement. One time, his daughter, Han, who's always been kind of a princess, decided she didn't like where I parked my bike because it was in her space in the garage. It escalated until she was yelling at me, and Derek stepped in, not to calm things down, but to tell me I should be more considerate, like it was my fault she was flipping out over a bike. This whole living situation has made my home feel like just a place where I eat and sleep. I spend more time out of the house, at friends' places, or just walking around than I do at home. I miss how it used to be with my dad. We weren't perfect, but I never felt like I was an intruder in my own house. My mom sees some of this, I think. Every now and then she tries to talk to me, asking if I'm okay. I just nod and say it's all good, because what can I really say? That her new husband makes me wish I lived anywhere else. That every day feels like a reminder my dad's gone and Derek has taken over? No way, that would just start a fight. And honestly, I'm too tired to fight anymore, it's a mess. Really. Living with Derek and his kids feels like being trapped in some kind of slow-motion nightmare, where everything I used to love about home is being twisted into something I don't even recognize. And the worst part? I have to smile and bear it, because this is still my mom's house too. And I don't want to make her life harder than it already is. So yeah, that's my life now. Stuck in a house with a stepdad who smiles in front of my mom but definitely doesn't want me around. I'm just counting the days until I can get out of here, or until something changes. Life in this step family circus has gone from bad to worse. It feels like every week there's new drama that just makes me want to pack up and disappear. But I guess I should start with the big blowout that happened not too long ago, and because it really shows what's been brewing under the surface. It all kicked off over something stupid, like it always does. Derek's son, let's call him Mark, decided that my gaming console was community property since it was in the living room, never mind that I saved up for months to buy it myself, and his sister started using it whenever they wanted, without even asking. I let it slide for a bit because I didn't want to start another fight. But then I found my controllers all messed up, buttons sticky and everything. So I confronted Mark about it. I kept my cool and just asked him to respect my stuff. He didn't take it well. He started telling me how I was being selfish, that I should be more generous since we're supposed to be a family. Of course. That's when Derek jumped in, backing up his son. He told me that in this house, we share everything, and that I needed to stop being so possessive. The argument got heated, and my mom finally stepped in, but instead of backing me up, she sided with Derek, saying I should try to be more understanding. Man, that hurt. It felt like suddenly it wasn't our home anymore. It was Derek's rules, Derek's way. That whole mess made me think a lot about how things have been changing. Derek's been slowly taking over every part of our lives. He's rearranged the living room, replaced some of my dad's old furniture with his own. It's like he's trying to erase my dad completely. My room is the only place that still feels like mine, and now even that feels threatened. One night, things got really weird. I was up late just thinking about all of this, and I decided to take a walk around the house. It was quiet, everyone else was asleep, and I just needed to clear my head. As I walked through the living room, I noticed Derek's laptop open on the table. I know I shouldn't have, but curiosity got the better of me. I peeked. There were emails open about property listings. Big, expensive places that were way beyond what we could afford, or at least that's what I thought. Turns out, Derek's been doing pretty well for himself, or at least he wants everyone to think so. The emails were between him and a real estate agent, talking about selling our house and buying a new one, something about needing a fresh start. For our new family. I felt sick to my stomach. This was all news to me. No one had said a word about selling the house. This was the house my dad loved, the house I grew up in. And Derek was planning to sell it like it was just some item on his to-do list. The next day, I brought it up at breakfast. I asked Derek straight up about the emails. You should have seen his face. It was like he'd been caught with his hand in the cookie jar. He stumbled over his words, tried to play it off like it was just options he was looking at. Nothing serious. But the cat was out of the bag. My mom was shocked. She didn't know anything about it either. There was this huge argument, voices raised. Derek trying to justify himself, my mom trying to understand why he'd go behind her back. I just sat there watching it all, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. It was clear Derek had plans that didn't include us, or at least not me. That fight seemed to open my mom's eyes a little. She's been more cautious around Derek since then, asking him more questions, keeping a closer eye on him. I don't know if it'll change anything in the long run, but at least she's starting to see that Derek might not be the perfect guy she thought he was. Since then, the atmosphere at home has been tense. Derek knows I don't trust him, and I know he's not happy about me snooping. It's like an unspoken war now. We avoid each other as much as possible, and when we do interact, it's short and to the point. No more fake smiles, no more pretending we're some happy family. I've started spending even more time out of the house, staying over at friends' places whenever I can. I just can't stand being around Derek, knowing he's planning to uproot everything just for his own benefit. My relationship with my mom? It's complicated. I'm glad she's starting to see through Derek. But there's a lot of damage, a lot of trust that's been broken. So that's where I'm at right now, stuck in a home that feels less and less like mine, trying to hold on to the few memories I still have of my dad, hoping that somehow things will get better. But deep down, I know I need to start making plans, figuring out a way to get out and move on with my life. Because this isn't living, this is just surviving, day by day, in a house full of tension and secrets. And just when you'd think that after the whole house-selling blow-up Derek might lay low? Nope, that's not his style. Instead, things ramped up even more, like he had something to prove, and I was his punching bag. Here's how it all spiraled even further. A couple of weeks after the email incident, Derek started pushing for these family bonding activities. He was all about showing my mom he's this great unifier, right? So he set up this big dinner. Everyone was invited, even some of his extended family. It was supposed to be this big, happy gathering, but the vibes were way off. His family was all right, I guess, but there was this undercurrent, like everyone was trying too hard to prove how great things were. During dinner, Derek kept putting me on the spot, asking me about school and my plans for the future, stuff he never cared about before. It felt like he was waiting for me to slip up so he could point out how I wasn't living up to expectations. I played it cool, gave him the answers he wanted, but the tension was thick. After the guests left, my mom pulled me aside. She's been noticing things, finally seeing how Derek's been treating me. We had a heart-to-heart, and I laid it all out for her, how I felt like Derek's been trying to push me out since the day he moved in. She listened, really listened, and I could see it hitting her hard. She promised things would change, that she'd talk to Derek and set some boundaries. I'm not holding my breath, but it was nice to see her step up. But here's the kicker. Things with Derek went from bad to downright ugly. The next day, he cornered me as I was coming out of my room. He was calm, too calm. He told me he knew I'd been talking to my mom, stirring up trouble. Then he warned me to back off, said it was for my own good. The veiled threat, the cold look in his eyes. I had never seen him like that before. I'm not gonna lie, I was rattled. I kept my cool and told Derek I didn't know what he was talking about, but inside I was freaking out. This guy wasn't just a jerk, he was manipulative, maybe even dangerous. After that, I avoided him as much as possible, staying in my room and keeping off his radar. A few days later, everything came to a head. I was home alone, just chilling, when Derek came home early from work. He didn't notice me at first, and I overheard him on the phone, angry, shouting. He was arguing with someone about money, saying he needed more time. He sounded desperate, completely different from the calm, put-together guy he pretended to be in front of my mom. I stayed hidden but kept listening, trying to piece together what was going on. From what I heard, Derek was in deep trouble. He owed money and it was coming due soon. He ended the call by slamming something down, and that's when it hit me. This guy had serious problems and he'd brought them right into our home. That night, I told my mom what I'd heard. I could see the worry on her face, the realization that Derek wasn't who she thought he was. She looked scared, but mostly angry that he'd dragged this mess into our lives. She decided then and there to confront him and ask him straight up what was going on. That confrontation was intense. I could hear them from the kitchen, voices raised. Derek was defensive, brushing it off like it was all just a misunderstanding, but my mom wasn't buying it. I saw a strength in her I hadn't seen in a long time. She told him she wouldn't tolerate lies, wouldn't let him endanger us with whatever mess he'd gotten into. Derek tried to charm his way out of it, but she stood her ground and told him he needed to fix his problems or get out. The next few days were painfully awkward. Derek was on thin ice and knew it. My mom was watching him like a hawk, and I just stayed out of the way, head down, trying to avoid adding fuel to the fire. But the tension was thick, like a storm just waiting to break, and then it broke. One night, Derek came home late looking completely wrecked. My mom confronted him again. Where had he been? Why all the secrecy? This time, Derek snapped. He started yelling, saying he'd had enough, that he wouldn't be treated like a criminal in his own home. It turned into chaos. I tried to step in and calm things down, but it was useless. Derek was out of control. He shouted that he was leaving and that we'd regret ever doubting him. He packed up some stuff, threw it in his car, and just like that, he was gone. The aftermath was surreal. My mom was in shock, just standing there trying to process everything. I felt relieved he was gone, but also guilty, like maybe we'd pushed him too far. Still, deep down, I knew this was better. Better than living with constant tension, threats and lies. Now it's just me and my mom, trying to pick up the pieces, trying to rebuild something from the wreckage Derek left behind. It's not going to be easy, but for the first time in a long time, it feels like we can breathe again. Maybe we can make this house a home again. But then, just last week, Derek came back. Somehow, he convinced my mom that all his problems were gone and that he just needed some time to clear his head. And of course, my mom let him back in. I was furious, but I didn't say anything. Yesterday, though, Derek and I finally had it out. My mom was working late and my step-siblings were out with friends, so it was just the two of us in the house. I didn't want to be alone with him, so I made plans to go out and was getting ready to leave when Derek started yelling at me. He said he wasn't my maid and that he wasn't going to do my dishes. I stayed calm and told him I'd take care of them when I got back, but he insisted I do them right then. In our house, everyone does their own dishes, and I really was planning to do them, but he just wouldn't stop shouting. I lost my temper and we started screaming at each other. I even cursed at him. Then, out of nowhere, he accused me of staying in the house just to get my mom to leave me everything my dad had left behind. I was shocked. I didn't see that coming at all. He went on about how my mom had finally realized I was just pretending to be nice because I wanted her to leave everything to me instead of Derek and his kids. That's when it hit me. My mom must have lied to him, told him that my dad had left everything to her when in reality it was all mine. Suddenly, Derek's behavior made sense. My mom probably didn't want him to know that my dad hadn't left her much, just a bit of cash. When he accused me, I laughed, hard, and told him the truth. He went pale. At first, he didn't believe me, but when I stopped laughing, he realized I was serious. I left the house right after that, and he didn't say a word. I was so stressed I didn't go home at all. I stayed at a friend's place. Just like I expected, my mom called me around midnight. She was furious, yelling at me for telling Derek the truth about the inheritance. I was angry, too. I told her she had no reason to lie to him, that she knew the property was legally mine, and that she had been left with nothing. I told her she was letting Derek treat me like crap because she was jealous that my dad left everything to me. She tried to explain that she'd planned to talk to me about it later. She said her business had been struggling for years and my dad knew that but never offered to help. She admitted my dad didn't like Derek and that she wanted to be with someone he didn't approve of. She also claimed she hadn't noticed how Derek was treating me because she was too distracted, but I didn't. By it, I told her I might have considered sharing the property with her if she'd been honest with me, but now I felt like my dad was right to leave everything to me. I didn't believe for a second that she hadn't seen how Derek treated me. I'd been telling her for years that he was awful. I told her I thought the reason she never called him out was because she was afraid he'd leave if she did, and that the only reason she cared about me now was because it would look bad socially if she kicked me out. After finding out the truth, she probably realized she needed me around for the money. She told me to come home immediately, but I refused. I told her I was leaving as soon as I could, that anywhere would be better than living with her and Derek. Then I hung up and blocked her. This morning, though, I woke up to a text from her apologizing. She said she loves me, wants to keep me in her life, and asked me to come home so we could talk. She said we both said hurtful things we didn't mean, but I don't think I said anything I didn't mean. And now I feel like a terrible person for even thinking that. But honestly, I still believe the only reason my mom wants me back is because she needs the money. Would I be the a-hole if I decided not to talk to my mom? Update 1. Hey everyone, before I get into anything else, I need to clear a few things up. Some of you asked why I didn't just move in with other family members if I didn't want Derek living with us. The truth is I wanted to support my mom after losing my dad. I didn't want to lose her too. Aside from the stuff with Derek, my mom and I didn't have a bad relationship. She didn't know what was going on, and things have only gotten this bad recently. Plus, my whole life is here. My other relatives live pretty far away, and my grandma's sisters don't even live in the country. So moving in with family wasn't really an option, even if I wanted to. Some of you were curious about my parents' living situation, so let me clarify. My parents lived together, but they weren't a couple. They were just co-parenting me. I guess most people found that weird, which is probably why neither of their relationships with other people ever lasted very long, at least until Derek came into the picture. Whenever my parents dated other people, those people didn't really get the setup. They couldn't wrap their heads around the fact that my parents were still living together and raising me. Eventually, my dad just stopped dating altogether. And my mom ended up with Derek. My dad would just stay in his room, and my mom had hers on the other side of the house. So it wasn't really a problem when Derek came over. I don't know if my dad still had feelings for my mom after they broke up. If he did, he hid it really well, because to me they just seemed like friends, until I turned about 13 and realized they'd never get back together. Maybe he still cared for her. Maybe he didn't. I honestly don't know. And at this point, it doesn't matter. I spoke with my dad's lawyer about everything that went down with my mom. I also talked to my grandparents on both sides. They all agreed that my mom's behavior toward me was completely out of line and that she should be ashamed of how she handled things. When they asked if I still wanted to live with her, I said no. I stayed with a friend for a while my grandparents made plans to fly in and help me figure things out. During that time, my mom tried to see me every single day, but I didn't agree to meet her. Honestly, I was just too confused and didn't know what her real intentions were anymore. She kept messaging me from different accounts on social media, but I was pretty sure she was still living with Derek. I wasn't about to believe anything she said until he was completely out of the picture. Call me stubborn, but I just didn't care anymore, and I had to protect myself. So I stayed where I was until my grandparents arrived, and then we started figuring things out together. They live out of state, and since I still had to go to school, I didn't want to move away. I even thought about asking if I could live on my own, but I wasn't sure if they'd go for that. At that point, I had no idea what was going to happen. All I could do was hope for the best. Update 2. Hey everyone. My grandparents flew in yesterday and took me to the hotel where they're staying so we could figure things out. My mom came too, since she's still technically responsible for me. The idea of me living on my own got shut down pretty quickly. I'm still too young for them to even seriously consider it. My mom kept trying to get me to come back home, but I made it very clear that I wasn't interested in working things out as long as Derek was still around. I told her point blank that the only way she could prove she had no hidden agenda was by kicking Derek and his kids out. If she couldn't do that, then we had nothing to talk about. She tried to argue with me, but she backed down because she didn't want my grandparents stepping in. My grandparents suggested I move in with them, but neither my mom nor I were ready to give up custody yet. Nobody really knew what the right thing to do was. I just kept saying I'd go back home if Derek wasn't there. My grandparents asked if I'd be willing to try to work things out with my mom over time, and I said yes. They asked her if she thought that was fair, and surprisingly, she agreed. She said she'd figure out a way to make it work. Honestly, I was surprised she agreed, but I still didn't know what would happen next. For now, I stayed with my grandparents at the hotel while my mom went home to talk to Derek. I was hoping things would go well, but I had no idea what to expect. My mom asked us to give her a few days to sort things out, so that's what we did. She didn't know what would happen either. At that point, all I could do was wait and hope for the best. I just really wanted to keep my family together. Update 3. Hey everyone. I went back home yesterday. It's been a week since my last update, so my mom and Derek are getting divorced. She told us that when she went home that day, she tried to explain to Derek that she couldn't come back to me while he was still there. It made sense because I didn't want to be mistreated by him like before. She asked him to leave for a few weeks so we could work on things, but apparently they had already been having problems. Derek was furious when he found out the truth about my dad's property. He felt betrayed and said he couldn't trust her anymore. When she suggested they take a break, he completely lost it and decided to file for divorce. Luckily, they hadn't been married long, and their finances were mostly separate, so he doesn't really have a claim too much. My mom apologized for everything. She admitted that she had been a terrible person for letting Derek treat me the way he did, and she realized she had overreacted when she found out about my dad's will. She promised she'd be a better mom, and I'm holding her to that. I told her that if she didn't follow through, I'd leave for good and apply for emancipation. I think I'm making the right choice by giving her another chance, even if some people might disagree. It's my life, and if I'm wrong, then it's my mistake to make. I'm just going with my gut because I don't want to look back later and regret not trying. She seems genuinely sorry, and I don't think she'll ever go back to Derek now that she's seen who he really is. She doesn't even seem worried about the divorce. Her only concern is making sure I'm okay. So for now, I'm cautiously optimistic. Update 4. Hey everyone! It's been a while, 3 years actually. I wanted to give you all the update you've been waiting for about my mom. Turns out she wasn't just doing it for the land. She genuinely regretted her actions. And I know this because despite a few bumps along the way, she completely turned her life around. She managed to rebuild her business and make it successful again. In fact, she's now paying for my college education. I told her she didn't have to, but she said it was the least she could do after everything that happened. Since the divorce, she hasn't spoken to Derek or even mentioned him. She handled the divorce on her own terms, and he only got a small settlement. My mom and I have been working hard to repair our relationship, and so far, it's going really well. Our bond is stronger than ever. Whenever we visit family, we try to do something fun together. I'm honestly happy with how things turned out. It could have easily gone the other way, but I'm glad my mom took responsibility and made real, positive changes when she was given another chance. I don't regret giving her that chance at all.